Okay, the last thing that goes in with amplitude and period of a sine or cosine function is the frequency of a sine or cosine function. And so the frequency is going to be b, the absolute value of b over 2a. So the absolute value of b, that guy right there, over 2 pi. I said 2a, 2 pi. And so when you put b over 2 pi, you get frequency. It's all there is to it. It's the reciprocal of the period. What does this mean graphically? Well, it means that the frequency is the number of complete cycles that a wave completes in a unit interval. This is really interesting. So let's just go through this guy real quick. Our amplitude is 4. Our period is 2 pi divided by 2/3. Okay? So what does this look like? This looks like 2 pi times 3 over 2, which is 6 pi. So what's our frequency? Our frequency is 2/3 divided by 2 pi. So now what? Well, this is equal to 2/3 times 1 over 2 pi. Oh my goodness, this needs to be not 6 but 3. And this guy right here is going to be what? 1 over 3 pi. Well, what does that mean? Let's look at a graph. So if we graph this guy, it looks like this. And so what's going on here? Well, it's hard to tell exactly, but we know that we've got a sine curve, and I'm supposed to get through my sine curve one full period by the time I get to pi, which is 3.14. So here's, should be right around in here, 3.14. Okay, and that should be where I get done with my sine function. But what's happened? It's gone through a little bit quicker. So if we had a regular sine function, we would start at 0. We would get up here to 1, and then down to -1. Let's see, pi over 4, 1, and then -1, and then back. So our regular sine function would look something like this. Ish. And so this guy, what? He's taller. He's got that amplitude. The period is 3 pi, so instead of being done by pi units, I've got to go out to 3 pi units. And then the frequency is how much of 1 do we see from 0 to 2 pi? So from 0 to 2 pi, the frequency. From 0 to 2 pi, about how much of the graph have we seen? And the answer is about 1/3 of it. And so that's kind of how this guy works. And it's the frequency, just the reciprocal of the period. Okay, so here's all the things that we need to know about sines and cosines and graphing them. And they're very, very similar to all of the previous things that we've looked at regarding functions. And so notice that I've got an amplitude in the front. Well, what's that amplitude? It's the absolute value of that a. What does it do? This gives me my vertical and stretch or shrink. Okay, it's all done vertically. It's outside the function. Well, what's next? The period inside. Well, that's a little bit unique, and the frequency is unique to the sine and cosine. But what is that period? Right here. Hey, guess what? This is your horizontal shrink and stretch. And again, if it's larger than 1, it's a shrink, and if it's less than 1, it's a stretch. Frequency is the reciprocal of the period. So frequency is new. Period we've used, we just haven't had that 2 pi involved, but it's the same steps that you've taken before. And lastly, the phase shift, which is this h part. Well, guess what? This is going to move you. Since it's happening inside, you're going to move left and right. This tells you how far to go left or right, just like all of the other functions we've talked about. So when you look at this, imagine some of those other functions that you've seen previously. The last one is that k over at the end. Guess what? This is going to move you up and down. So if we know all of these things, can we construct an equation of a sinusoid with period pi over 5 and amplitude 6 that goes through the point 2, 10? Well, guess what? They've given us some really good information. They've told us that the amplitude is 6. So A will be 6. Okay? They've told us that the period is pi over 5. So the period, now what is period? 2 pi over b equals pi over 5. That's what the period, this is what the period is, this is what it equals. Well, can we solve for b, multiply both sides by b? Two pi equals b pi over 5. I'm going to multiply both sides by 5. And that gets me 10 pi equals b pi. Guess what I'm going to divide by? You'll never guess. Pi. And so when I divide by pi, I've got a b. And so look, here's a. A is 6. Here's b. B is 10. Okay, so this is good. We know then, and they told us a sinusoid, so we know this is what we have. Y equals 6 times the sine of 10x. Like we know this for sure. But we've got to figure out if it goes through the point 2, 0, and if it does, we're good. And if it doesn't, we'll have to add or subtract or make a change or whatever. So let's look at this guy. We know that we need to go through the point 2. Oh shoot, this should be 2, 0. That'll make our math a lot easier. 2, 0. So how do we handle this? Well, this graph for this guy, 6 sine of 10x. If we were to look at this on a graph, we start at 0, 0. Okay, sine starts at 0, 0, so I'm going to start at 0, 0. And then what? I'm going to go up to 6, and I'm going to go down to -6, right? So what's happening here? I don't want to start at 0, 0. I want to start over here at 2. So in order to start at the point 2, 0, which way do I have to move? And the answer is I've got to move to the right 2 units. Now if I move to the right 2 units, what have I got to do? I've got to make a change inside where my x is. So this becomes then y equals 6 times the sine of 10. And then what am I doing? I'm moving my graph 2 units to the right. Okay, this is a good answer right here. I'm fine with this. And if you like to be real pretty with your math, you would answer it this way. These are both good answers. Don't let this be overly difficult. Watch this a couple times and see what we're talking about. But you can do this with a little bit of practice, okay?